Hi, folks. Sorry about the technical issues. Seems everyone in ANC 1B has been locked out of their Zoom. Are you able to hear me? Okay, cool.
Yes, we can hear you fine.
All right, we will see who is able to join. Looks like we may have lost folks. Oh, there we go. Let's hold on for a few more minutes and see if we can get some more folks to join. Hi, Brandon. I can kind of hear you, but I think you're a little.
Yeah. Oh, can you hear me now?
There you go. Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Yeah. I say good evening. How are you guys doing?
Good evening. Sorry about the technical issues. It looks like our whole commission has been locked out of our Zoom for some reason. So I was trying to fix it like 10 minutes before the meeting, I didn't realize I tried to log in early, but it's not working. And so we're gonna see if anybody else can join. We can wait till like 7:10, and then if no one else can join, we'll just maybe do a quick informal meeting, since we don't have a quorum, I don't think, and we can just ask some questions from our MPD representatives that have kindly joined us, and then we'll either reschedule or we'll just wait till the next month to do a full meeting. Were folks able to stay dry today?
No, no, I got wet.
So did
Terrible
I.
outside.
Put on the baseball cap and kept going.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, I should probably introduce Brandon. He's our newest member of the Public Safety Committee. And Brandon, this is Claire, another member of our Public Safety Committee. And we've got Macaulay Murphy and Leslie Wheeler on the line.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank
you for
as
having me.
well.
All right. I don't know how many other people are going to join us, and I don't know if I can hunt down everyone right now. A couple people said that they were not available tonight as well. So maybe we could just get a quick readout from MPD on the latest that's happened in the area. I know that there were two major shootings last weekend on Friday and Saturday, so I'd love to hear if there's any updates on that.
Yes, they were two major shootings. One victim, one individual, he's still in the hospital right now. He also had a warrant for robbery out of Metro Transit. The detectives, they're currently following up on those incidents as well. There were a few apprehensions with that incident. Captain Murphy may be in position to brief out a little bit more on that because he was working that evening.
Hi, everyone. I'm Captain Murphy. I think the two major shooting you referring to is that the one on 1300 block Columbia Road and also 900 U Street. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, I think so. I think there was there a shooting on U Street also on Friday?
Yes, that's the one I'm talking about.
Okay, but there's also one on Sunday. Well, it was technically Saturday. It was Saturday night, but it was on Sunday.
Yes, yes, on both nights. Yes, yeah. Saturday night for Sundays. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and there
So
was
the
no other shootings on U Street this last weekend, or there were.
it's same. It's the same. Or kind of the same night. Saturday night for Sunday.
Okay, but there was also one on Columbia Road. I don't think I heard about that one.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the major one we had.
Okay, great. Yeah, would you mind providing us some more info about?
So basically, we had officers in the area, special attention, lights, position 2, highly visible. In the rear of 1300 block Columbia Road, there were several people having some type of gathering, and that's when we heard sounds of gunshot. We had officers in the area as well as a detective. When we heard the sounds of gunshot, called it out, responded to the scene. We recovered one weapons in the rear of 1304 Columbia, as well another weapon about 10 feet away from that scene. We also had blood trail, but we couldn't locate the victims as of yet. We did see a vehicle leaving the scene from Harvard Street on the way to WAC Hospital, where officers conducted a traffic stop, where the vehicle tried to flee from the officers. They spun around, hit a median, and a couple of suspects tried to flee from the vehicle, where another vehicle was following that vehicle that spun around, and they got out and took property off that vehicle that was on the scene. But we were trying to apprehend the other suspect leaving from the scene, so we unsure what property they took from that vehicle that spun around, and we were able to apprehend those suspects with one weapon recovery as well. And after further investigation, upon reviewing cameras, we observed one of the suspect apprehended from that vehicle that spun around happened to be one of the shooters. And so that's going to be a closed case with that. And also we have located victims with the blood trail that was shot up in the rear of Torchons by Columbia. Had a graze wound to the head. He's conscious and breathing, currently in the hospital right now being treated.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Glad to hear that everybody. Well, that no one died, because seems close. Were there? Do you think that the people that took property off the vehicle were involved in some way, or it's unclear?
It's possible.
Mhm.
It's possible we didn't get a chance to interview them. They fled the scene, but they were following the vehicle, going around, and they got property off that vehicle. Unsure what the circumstances were, but they did fled the scene. So can't really say for sure, but that's what we're suspecting.
Got it. And then could you tell us more about the shooting on 9th?
Yep. So on the same night as I was working as well, we had also doing club let out 1900 block of 9th Street. We had officers in the area as well. And
There's
after
always
club let out,
there's a lot of presence there, I feel like, at night.
yes, there's always police presence in the area. We have nightlife officers assigned to those areas. And after club let out, there were people standing right there in the intersection. And that's when we heard sounds of gunshot right there in front of police presence. And as we responded to the scene and we located three gunshot wound victims. One was shot in the back twice. Another one was juvenile. He was shot in the shoulder. And an adult male was shot in the arm. All conscious and breathing, none life-threatening injuries. They responded to a nearby hospital. Unsure what the circumstances were that would led to the shooting, but that's the shooting that we had on 1900 block of 9th Street.
And sorry, was a suspect apprehended or no?
So we did stop several people on that scene that was fleeing, according to one of the witnesses. But when we conducted further investigation, we unsure they were part of the shooting. So we just did a stop report and let them go.
So there are no suspects right now?
No, not as of right now. But detective is following up on the case as well as Lieutenant Willer, which is a crime suppression lieutenant that's also following up on the case as well. So I'm sure they probably, if they have any update and information, they'll definitely do a follow up on it.
Did anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, can you give me more of a readout on the incident that occurred a couple nights ago at 13th and U? There was an individual after leaving an ATM was run over by an SUV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to know.
Yes, that was also a night that I was working as well. Apparently, it was a white SUV that ran over victims. And after they run them over, I think it was on the news. They posted a video as well. They went into his pocket and robbed him. And after we arrived on the scene, after further medical treatment, he was pronounced. It's unfortunate. And that case is still being investigated by our homicide detective as well as our major crash. I don't have any update on that yet, but as soon as we do, I'll definitely let you know. And then we had a couple of, I think we had a stabbing as well at 600 T Street in front of Howard Theater. It was an event occurring at that Howard Theater, and it was a long line. I guess people were just agitated. They couldn't get in. There was a long line. And two individuals got into a fight in reference to the long line. One of them brandished a knife, stabbed the victims, I believe, in the lower abdomen. He's conscious and breathing, responded to a hospital. The suspect did flee the scene. We're still investigating that case now. A detective is following up on it, but that victim is conscious and breathing as well.
And the show, it was someone's birthday party, correct?
Yes, I believe some type of rapper named G's. I'm not sure. Will, do you know that rapper? Some G's party. Some guy named G's.
Yeah, no, that shakes a tambourine.
Got it. And have we seen other cases like the one at 13th and U with the SUV running over the individual and then robbing them?
Other cases? What do you mean? Okay, well,
like is that a pattern that we're seeing? Is that something that people are doing more,
No.
or does it seem to be like the first time that this has happened? It just seems like very like a specific, like very planned out, I guess.
Well, I don't know if we would say it was planned out. I could think that was probably an isolated incident. The individual struck him with the vehicle, and while he was out, there's a lot of individuals that traverse U Street, so that was more likely a crime of opportunity while he was out to go in his pockets, take his items, and keep going. Because
you don't think they saw him go to the ATM?
We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
Because if they saw him go to the ATM, they could have addressed it right then and there. They didn't have to wait for him to walk off and then someone go back to get a vehicle to run him over. That's a lot. They could have addressed it right there while he was at the ATM machine, as opposed to waiting for him to walk down the street and another individual going to get a vehicle to come back and run him over.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Got it.
I thought the car turned around in order to run him over. Am I misremembering? Like he leaves the ATM, he's going past like the 7-Eleven, the car passes him and then does a U-turn in order to make the attack.
So they watched him go past. Captain Murphy was here. Maybe he could brief on that part. But you're saying that the individual went to the ATM machine and he was walking, the vehicle rolled past and made a U-turn and came back and struck him with the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well,
That's what I think. That's what I remember, but I'm not clear.
Yeah, I'm not clear on that as well. I think all we saw was that the vehicle running him over, and then after that, they got out, went to his pocket. So I'm not sure if they previously saw him and did a U-turn, but that could be possible as well.
Hi, Karen. Thanks for joining us. Sorry about the technical issues. We're just hearing updates from MPD about the major crimes in ANC 1B over the last month.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you. We had a candlelight visual that I was supposed to be headed to, but I forgot about this meeting until then. But thank you for your patience.
Of course. Lieutenant Wheeler, I know you're on the crime suppression team, I believe. Would you mind just telling us more about? Would you mind telling us a little bit more about what that team does?
The crime suppression team is comprised of 2 sergeants, 16 officers, 1 lieutenant, 1 captain, and we generally respond to the special attention and concentration areas of each district in addressing the violent crime and the general crimes as well, crimes of opportunity.
And actually, I see that Reverend Judy was able to join. I think you might be muted. No worries.
Yes, sorry about that. We was on the Zoom link for some reason and it kept spinning. So I was like, okay, there must be an update, and I missed
No,
it.
that's our fault. Our commission, none of the commissioners can get into the Zoom right now.
Oh.
So unfortunately, I was not able to start it. So thank you for joining in spite
Absolutely.
of that. Sorry for the technical issues. And while we have you, because we don't want to take up too much of your time, and thank you for devoting some time out of your evening. For those who don't know, you are a violence interrupter in DC and the executive director and founder of the Inner City Collaborative Community Development Corporation. And we would just love to hear more about your work, about the violence interrupter program in DC, about some of the proposed changes that the council has been talking about. And then we'd love to ask some questions.
Okay. All right. Well, as you said, Commissioner Barlow, I am the co-founder of Inner City and have been doing mentorship, violence interruption, working with juvenile justice, involved youth and their families for probably now over 30 years, have been funded by DYRS since 2016 to work specifically with young people committed to CFSA and DYRS. And in 2022, was funded by the Office of the Attorney General to start a violence interrupter program. Shout out to Councilmember Nadeau and Councilmember Janice George for lobbying for wards 1 and 4 to get a violence interrupter program in their communities or in their wards. So I've been doing that since 2022. And as of this fiscal year in October, we applied in November and was awarded in January of this year for the ones which actually changed their scope of how the VI work is presented to the community. It's now ward-based. So I represent Ward 1. And um, and so there is a little overlap in the communities from the OAG side and the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagements ward. But because they are ward specific, it kind of says that, you know, we can go anywhere in the ward that there is an issue, and or it's not necessarily driven by the hotspots or the communities that have the issues. We will try to follow whatever, you know, criminogenic behavior is resulting in, you know, and get in front of it or behind it to educate the community and or to interrupt it, and by developing relationships. All of our work is really relationship driven. So we do engage utilizing the skills and the expertise of people who've been involved in the criminal justice system, but we also employ people who are not necessarily, you know, who hasn't traveled that path, but bring another dimension of education and community advocacy to the work. So it's kind of a combination of both right now that I'm employing. We also have to cover our Columbia Heights community, since I've been in this community now for, you know, almost um, 10 plus years providing services. We now have a Columbia Heights Family Success Center, which is also committed to the Columbia Heights area, which needs a lot of support for a lot of reasons right now. It's you know, it's brimming with, you know, some adverse behavior that we're trying to get control, you know, wrap our hands around right now. Like most of the city is, there seems to just be an uptick that we're experiencing, some one-offs and some crew internal stuff that's going on in the Columbia Heights area. But shout out to LaDroit. We have been quiet for 30 days. So I'm really, really excited about that. But there has been some deliberate work and resources, you know, that have been provided to that community that's actually making a difference. We're going to start with Reverend Jenkins. She's opened the doors to St. George's Episcopal Church. So we're going to also be hosting CBT, cognitive behavior therapy sessions starting next Mondays and Wednesdays. Working specifically, you know, with our highest risk young people in that community. So we're excited about that. And putting a proposal together to do the same thing at the Alsos Unitarian Church on 16th Street. So we are really, really busy trying to build our network and strengthen our base so that we can get in front of the summer, which always brings a lot of, you know, outside activity and sometimes not the best activity. So we're trying to, you know, circumvent it and bring some positive pro-social activity to the community, and also to take the young people out to expose them to something a little different, and hopefully deter them from continuing on a path that is definitely not going to bring a fruitful future for any of them or the community. So we got our work cut out for us, but we are certainly up for the challenge.
Great. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, ma'am. Reverend, does
Hi.
your violence interrupter program, does the Safe Passage program fall under its sort of umbrella?
No, we were at up until last August, we were a safe passage provider, but we were not renewed in October in the new fiscal year. But I do know that the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice does see that as a continuum and a gateway. It is definitely something that I proposed several years ago when I first started with DYRS, to allow the credible messengers and the violence interrupters to certainly be a part of that staff. Of course, fully vetting them, you know, to work not only outside of the school, but going inside to, you know, to create innovative programming to deter them from bringing adverse activity to the school, and spilling over into the community. So we have definitely, put forth that kind of agenda and repropose that, and we'll be, trying to get that lifted again in June when the new proposal comes out.
Okay, so just to clarify, you were not renewed for September. You will be trying to become renewed for September in June when the new proposal.
Right.
there-
So
Yeah.
yes, the new fiscal year is coming up, and I've prayed a lot about it, Claire, and I really feel like we're missing a gateway, right? A huge door at the school level to do our. There is a couple of programs that we do in the community to help augment the work that we do. It's called the Peace Ambassadors Initiative, where we teach them through an evidence-based model called Too Good for Drugs and Violence. And we do the sky breath meditation as a component of that to teach them how to calm, how to take a moment, how to breathe, how to, not stress and react so quickly. We know we're competing with that side of the brain that hasn't been fully developed yet. So their decision making isn't isn't the best. They don't always make the right choices. And we can't wait until they're 25, right? We gotta put some other tools in there so that they can make good choices or make better choices than the ones that they're making. And what we have found, because we had this program last year, and we found that a lot of them didn't know how to calm themselves. They just were so mad and angry that, and that anger usually spilled out into something, violent. But once we were able to show them, how to calm, and they came back to share stories about being able to, not fight their sister or not want to fight after school because they took 10 minutes and they went in the bathroom and they did a breathing exercise, which they didn't even think that was part of what they do every day. But we just gave them a new way of looking at something as simple as breathing to use as a calming, strategy. So I know it works. And then the whole idea of the curriculum, Too Good for Drugs and Violence, goes really, really in depth with them. And it's not just for the students, it's for the parents, the caregivers as well. So those two programs, along with the CBT, are really instrumental tools for us to offer as a way of getting the community abreast of other ways of dealing with conflict and managing anger.
Thank you, ma'am. And so just to clarify, if the safe passage is not renewed in June, then what becomes of it?
Well, I think that's one of the mayor's priority programs. I think it is a very good chance that Safe Passage, in its current form, is not the way that it started out, though, right? Right now, it's not necessarily going inside the schools or working even close in location wise to the schools. It's in and around. They have what they call routes. So they kind of patrol in and around the schools and not necessarily. I personally, I like the way that it was when I started a few years ago, where we were able to bring programming inside the school, as well as, greet the kids and talk to them as they were going into and out of the school building. But they pulled back on that, and now they're just doing routes. So we'll see what the proposals that they are, going to give credence to when they open up the new RFA in June. But it'll be for the upcoming fiscal year, which will start October 1.
Okay. And so they would be starting 2-3 months into the school year?
Yeah, well, they would start in August, when I think the kids go back in late August or after Labor Day. But they
Okay.
usually put the RFA out 2 to 3 months before, so that they can get the providers, amped up, and some training goes in, into it and things like that, so that they are ready when school starts.
Okay, good. That's all I have. Thank you.
Hmm.
Karen, would you like to ask a question?
I certainly would, and thank you so much. And Claire, those some of those questions were in the line of where I was going. And Reverend Judy, it's such a pleasure to see you again. And as
Okay.
always, your work is just miraculous in the neighborhoods. And I know it's a joy, a labor of love. That's what I want to say. And you've been doing a marvelous job. I am always interested in seeing creative programming in the schools, but impactful programming that really touch children and our young people where they need to be taken care of, especially their heart, mind, body, and soul
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to working with them, because they need those core memories to take place at a young age. But and I'm curious as to the age level in which your programming is going to start working with children. What's the youngest age that you guys are working with them? I mean, especially looking at some of the violence issues that we're dealing with, and we want to change that narrative where we have 14-year-olds impacted children, but it starts in the home.
Yes.
So, are you all thinking or working towards a program that works below the age of 14 and up?
Yes.
That's number one. That's question one. Sorry.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with you. During the pandemic, we created a program, a social emotional learning program, because we were in that virtual space. We knew that there were a significant amount of young mothers and fathers and other caregivers that were struggling with the computers and the homework that was coming home. So we developed an after school program that evolved into a virtual summer program where we were literally helping with and it was the positive model. I think, therefore I am, teaching the elementary school, and we started at elementary. So we had the siblings of the DYRS committed youth and Child and Family Services committed youth. They were the pilot for that program. It really took off at the elementary school near our church in over in Ward 7. So we actually kept the curriculum, kind of built it up uh, a little bit more. And it actually is a key piece of the Too Good for Drugs and Violence, which is at the elementary grade school level, in addition to the I Think Therefore I Am, which is a positive social emotional learning platform that we've adapted to kind of fit our communities and our schools. So we do have something to offer for the school age as well as, and in particular, middle school, because that's where we target our Peace Ambassadors Initiative, as well as the cognitive behavior therapy. But we're actually, modifying that along with the social emotional piece, positive action, which is the curriculum that we used, and, kind of customize it to make it fit Washington, D.C. um, for our program for elementary school age kids.
Now, okay. Now, I know that we have a 3D CAC cadet program, but we really just work with kids who are interested in law enforcement and doing public safety work.
Mhm.
However, I always say that we need to have a youth involved council that has children of all um backgrounds and community impacts involved, so that they can make some decisions because they're growing up and they
Right.
need to be fully involved in the civic process, but they need to be involved in the justice process. Now, if they're impacted children who are going through these processes, how are you involving them in helping you all make a decision as to where you can have creative programs that leads towards things that they're interested in so that it can be effective, in regards to making sure you have effective outcomes, so that when there are activities when they're growing, we know how they grow and they have
Mhm.
different things that attract them and adventures, that you capture them before they go out onto evolving into things that are not conducive to the best behaviors for their social betterment. So what are you doing to involve them, like in a council process, like advisory process, to make sure that your programs are working for them to meet them where they are?
Well, and I'm glad you asked that, because one of the things that we found working with the justice involved youth and families, one of the things that the former director Lacey, that made our Credible Messenger mentoring program unique is we were engaging families. There was a component, and still is a component, where we lift the entire family. So if I'm serving the youth who's committed to the agency, I also have the right to serve that family as well. And in doing so, we found that there were younger children in the home who would ask questions like, do I have to get in trouble to go on the same trips or the same outings, or get new shoes, or get, things done for me? And I was like, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, we are your whole family is enrolled and in our program, and that's the benefit of doing so, where we can actually reach that child. I call them the next up generation, because they're watching their siblings, they're watching their older sisters and brothers, and we have to have something for them to pick up alternative to what they see their brothers and sisters doing, right? So we
Exactly.
are trying to be in that, fill that gap with positive pro-social activities. We invite the entire family on our outings. When we have our weekly groups, the family is invited, not just the one that's committed to the agency, but the family. They can bring their little brother or their little sister, and they can get to see and feel the love, right, around all of the things that we do. There's 7 foundational pillars that we structure all of our lessons, and every time we get together and break bread, it is over a theme. My life matters, my family is my all, the power of the tongue, what does love really look like, are just a few of the 7 foundational pillars that we build lessons out of, so that every time they leave our presence, they're actually being taught a life skill and a social emotional skill that they can carry with them, whether it's being kind, or understanding other people's feelings, or appreciating the concept of family, that is not necessarily biology that makes a family. So those are things that we do, and which is was the impetus behind our development of the Peace Ambassador Initiative. Those are incentivized efforts that we make, so that not only do they have an opportunity to come and get a gift card and receive a reward for participation, but they have to complete the program. They have to complete the breathing exercises. They have to complete the Too Good for Drugs and Violence. So the momentum to get to the end is there, because there's a carrot, sort of saying, hey, we're going to reward that good behavior. We're going to reward your attendance. We're going to reward, some of the things that you're doing. We also created an entrepreneurship academy for them as well, so that they could start thinking about, what do I want to do when I grow up? Helping them, prepare for certain careers. And if they wanted to be their own business person, what are some of their thoughts and ideas? And we've just gotten a great turnout. We did that in the month of March, and we have 2 young people now that have created businesses as a result. One is a vending machine. He's a new vending machine entrepreneur. And we have little KJ, who's 10 years old, who created a model for selling candy. But it's called KJ's Candies. So getting them to think early on about their future, and to think from an economic standpoint how they can contribute to their economic bottom line. So teaching them those skills as well are some of the things that we certainly do to help re-engineer their thinking, and to get them involved positively in pro-social activities and events.
I want to give Brandon a
So
chance to ask
that
a question as well, if
that
unless you had
that
something
was
quick, Karen.
Yeah, well, actually, this is my final question because I really wanted to see how you were working with the other programs because MPD has a juvenile program that they just started without the youth division, and I just want to make sure that to see if you're working with programs such as the Trigger Project. I know with Miss
Mhm.
Bell, she's doing something,
Yes.
and we're trying to change the narrative of how youth are being projected in this society so that they don't always see that negative energy coming back to them, especially if they're doing something good. So, is that the direction that your program is also making sure that you're putting out that messaging to say that, hey, even though these are environmental factors, look at all the good that's coming from the
Mhm.
youth that we have in our community. Is that something that you're doing similar to these projects?
Absolutely, absolutely, because um, we tell our story, our success story, how we've helped young people that we've mentored over the past 10 and a half, 10, well, 10 plus years, but 30, 10 years being funded, but 30 plus years of doing this kind of work in the community. We tell the success stories. We all, we often want to applaud just those that are not in trouble for all the wrong reasons, but we also want to recognize those that are doing good and accomplishing, astronomical things in spite of their circumstances, in spite of, coming out of, an abusive home situation, or they lost both parents, but they still excelled because there was someone to catch them, to support them through their school age. So we do, and I know Tia very well, and we are always talking, and and have collaborated on a couple of things. I'm a big supporter of her, both financially and and otherwise, because I do believe in lifting children up, and making sure that I'm not just talking about what needs to be done, we're about doing what needs to be done as well, which is kind of why I wanted to take these programs, like the Peace Ambassador and our CBT, to the schools, because it is a positive tool that I think we also have, and I forgot about this, our restorative justice, where we have, it's called DC Peacemakers, where we will go into the schools and work with young people who have conflict with each other, and or their parents, right? Where we've actually interrupted situations where there was, healing that needed to take place, and being, a part of that process as well. So we do offer that too.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're having Tia in for our 3D CAC meeting on
Okay.
the last of the month, the end of the last Thursday of the month, and you're always welcome. As I think I've told you, Terrence is the guy who works with you.
Terrence Davis, yes, and our Family Success
Yes.
Center. Yes.
Yes.
And
Okay.
we just
Okay.
put a lot of our programming out on LinkU, so that other, sites and other, residents can find us and some of the programs that we offer to the community. Not just Columbia Heights, because through our cluster-based grant under CFSA, anybody from anywhere in the city that's a DC resident can benefit from any of the programming that we offer.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks so much. Yeah, Brandon, feel free to go ahead.
Hey, Reverend Judy, how are you?
Hey, Brandon, how you doing?
I'm well. Sorry if some of this, I'm new. This is my first one, so excuse me if I
Okay.
asked a question you might have answered.
Okay.
The first one is there medication management associated with the mental health resources that the children are receiving?
Not by us, but we will certainly navigate, them to a resource if that's what they need and that's what's required. We just started a therapeutic intervention called Quamca, where offering group counseling and therapy for mental health and wellness, because believe it or not, we found too many of our young people saying that they were depressed, and you're 12 and you're depressed, or, I'm stressed out, and just based on some of the analytical stuff that they had to undergo through the questions, we found that they were in fact depressed and or stressed and having issues like that. And because of this, certainly the uptick in harm behavior, we wanted to also offer something, as a intervention for the parents as well as for the young people, a place where they could come and cool out and talk to other people that may not be in their in their immediate sphere of influence, but someone that could understand who, their issues and their concerns. That is new, but we do have 2 licensed clinical therapists that we consult with that is helping us lift that program as well.
Thank you. Are those clinical professionals doing telehealth visits, home visits, or are they visiting students in school?
No, they will do. We're just, like I said, we're just getting started. So we're just kind of, marketing and letting people know that we have that Inner City has that support service. But we're going to specifically work with the schools on it and our existing clientele through DYRS and the participants and the families that come through our Family Success Center, the Columbia Heights Family Success Center, as well as the communities that we service, Columbia Heights, LaDroit, Mount Pleasant, all of the wards, communities in Ward 1 that we service, which 10 are highlighted areas, Parkview, but we would literally go anywhere within the ward, and 4 as well. Ward 1 and 4 would be included in that. So wherever there is a need or a referral that would come to us, either through the Link U system, we would, or walk in, because we do have a storefront here on 7th Street that's in our administrative office, and anybody can come in here and get, participate in our weekly food bank, get the counseling and the therapeutic services that they need, get Family Success Center, support as well, because we are a navigator to all of the other agencies, core service agencies that provide this service as well. But and they could, come in and say, hey, I got a 9-year-old, which has happened, where they wanted a mentor or someone for their son to talk to. So we do provide it on a case by case and a referral basis.
And the referrals, are they from school counselors or just anybody referring?
It could be anyone in the community. Yeah, it could be anyone in the community. But we have gotten kids, young people referred from the school.
Okay, perfect. And then my last question is, if I'm not mistaken, I think but the mayor's budget hearing is coming up.
Yes.
Do you guys anticipate any shortfalls or changes in your appropriated funds for next year, or are you guys just grant based?
We're grant based. We're
Okay.
grant based. So it really is, a year to year for us, because it's always subject, to available funding. But as long as, there is a budget and a priority for violence intervention and prevention programs, mentoring, the Credible Messenger program has been around now. We are almost in our 10th year. So it's been supported, through both DYRS and CFSA, which is our primary court involved and or justice involved committed youth program model. And we've been blessed, we've been fortunate. So we haven't seen, those programs cut. But there's always the discussion or the conversation starts to come out around, especially now without that 1.1 billion being given back to the city. Public safety and justice is an area that gets hit.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very quickly, I wanted to ask a question, and then I can pass it off to our other committee members. And I know that we're running up against time here, but I am curious, Reverend Judy, and thanks so much for taking so much time to talk with us and answer all our questions, because I do think violence interruption is top of mind with all the shootings. It seems like there's
Yes.
more shootings. Thankfully, less fatalities, it seems, but definitely more
Yeah,
shootings this
absolutely.
year. I'm curious, what can be done to study the effectiveness of these programs to figure out which ones are the most effective, and what do you see as the most important metric for success for specifically the violence interruption programs?
Um, I always talk about the data that doesn't get told, and that's one of the things that we have been working on with the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement is telling our story. Being in a position where we talk about all of the data, not just the bodies that get counted, but also the lives that are changed by the work that we do. And we had not in the past been doing a good job of, capturing all of the good stuff, all of the good data, all of those outcomes. And we're definitely doing a much better job, especially going into this year. And I personally have made it my quest to be able to tell how many, on our website, the number of families that we know personally that we can tally, we can count and say, hey, you know what, they're doing better. They're not, they're not, this family or this individual is not where we met them, right? And they are doing better, and we can track and monitor that success. I think the best way to certainly do it is to continue to resource it, right? Because even though DC is labeled as resource rich, people don't always know where those resources are, and they don't always have access to them in every community. And unfortunately, we have a lot of communities that have boxed themselves out of resources because they can't venture out of their community to go to Southeast, or they can't go to Northwest, or they can't go to Southwest, because of beefs and affiliations and things like that. So being able to, but the internet has created a space where we can provide some of those services, over, online, but a lot of it requires that personal hands-on touch. So being able to get back to some of that, but also dealing with, I think, the mental health and wellness piece. I think the pandemic has done a number on our young people, and we're seeing the effects of that. Because if you think about 5 years ago, the 17-year-olds that we are experiencing this great uptick in adverse behavior from, they were 11 and 12 years old. So we didn't get the opportunity to do that social engineering and development that they would have normally gotten from the school system, and or just engaging with each other just through human contact. So and the video games haven't helped, because that brings in another isolating factor. I mean, I have a 12-year-old grandson, and I have to pull him away from, I disconnected, hide it, put it in the trunk of my car for 2 weeks just to make sure that he goes outside to play, that he talks to his grandmother, that he plays with his sister, that he walks the dog, because they can become so enamored with that, and it doesn't enhance their social and mental well-being, because they're talking to a computer. They're playing with people that they don't see and they don't know. So it takes an element of that human capacity out of it. But I know that one of the best ways that we can really measure success is certainly by doing every documenting, right? Because if we don't document it, it didn't happen. And I think the documentation of the data, for us, we've invested in systems that track a person from when they come into our care and for a service until they exit, right? And we always, try to structure our involvement with that individual with the end in sight. So we always, okay, so when we set them up for success, when they initially come in, we start talking about the end, how we're going to, help you achieve those outcomes, and measure, successfully measure whether or not we helped you achieve it or not.
Got it. Thank you for that answer. And I mean, I definitely think, it's important. I know you mentioned LaJoy Park and things have been pretty quiet there for 30 days. So, I am interested, if you could speak to some of the work that you might have been able to do there and sort of how you can de-escalate some of those situations, because it does seem like that sort of tit for tat back and forth is where the violence interrupters can really make a difference. Some of those programs you were talking about for youth, it seems like those could help, more long term. But if there's something like immediate, where there's groups that are going after each other and responding in kind,
It's
seems
relentless. It's the engagement factor, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things that we were able to do is we took 4 of the most highest risk individuals in LaDroit, and
Mhm.
we put them in a program called Pathways, right? And they were like, oh no, they're not ready, they're not. But we did, we took them for about 60 days and really worked, I don't want to say we brainwashed them, but if you for lack of a better way of putting it, we convinced them that their life had
Mhm.
value, right? And that whatever you did in the past, whatever you did yesterday, we're not going to look down. This is always a no judgment zone. But today is the first day of the rest of your life. So whatever you did, okay, and if we have to deal with that, we'll deal with that. But let's
Mhm.
talk about how we move you forward. So we took those 4 young men, right? And now they're in this program called Pathways. So they're not thinking about shooting, they're thinking about their future. They're not thinking about the next up or the next video, recording the next video. I'm just like, okay, if you want to make that, your claim to fame, and that's what you want to do for the rest, let's learn how we do it right. Let's learn how we do it without disrespecting women, children, disrespecting neighborhoods. We don't have to put out a drill music style video or a disrespectful one in order to make sure that your talent, because that's what you really want to showcase, is that you are, you're a rapper, you got star quality. So giving them that extra edge and introducing them to some of the people who were once part of the problem, who made it out and lived to tell their story, has really enhanced. One of the major creators of those rap videos, he's now in Pathways. He's a major influencer in the LaDroit community. And
Mhm.
because they're seeing him go to class, and from 8 to 4:30, he's kind of out of the air. He's at the one's office taking part in the Pathways program, and he will be in subsidized employment once he completes the. As a matter of fact, he's I think they're 2 weeks away from completing that cohort, and we have 3 others that are from that same community. So being able to get them engaged into something else and convincing them that their lives are worth saving, and the person that is interfacing with them is critical to that. They have to respect the person that the message is coming from, and they happen to respect this particular VI very much. I mean, I can call them and say, do you know where? It's almost like calling and saying, it's midnight, do you know where your children are? And we do a check-in around midnight, and he says, I just checked on everybody, Rev, and everybody's good. Everybody's where they need to be and getting ready for
Mhm.
tomorrow. We'll have 1 or 2 that are not are out of place, but we're working on them. But because the major influencers are in a good space, we don't have that kind of issue
Mhm.
like we had when I first got there.
Got it. Real quick, Claire and Karen, I do know that we're running up against time, and I want to say a few things before we end our meeting. So if you have questions, try to make them quick.
No, just very quickly, Reverend Judy, you mentioned you had a storefront on 7th Street. Where is that located, and how might one go about volunteering?
1722
Mm-hmm.
7th Street Northwest. And the Family Success Center, we are really trying to get our programs off the ground and boots on the ground. So Raina Raina Pugh is
Mhm.
the person that would love to have someone, support her as she's tabling across Columbia Heights in some of our events.
Would love that.
Excuse me.
Yeah. And in that
Something
same
went down
vein,
the wrong way.
definitely, I know you were mentioning that you were hoping to put programming back into the schools. And, that's something that the ANC can advocate for and try to
Okay.
put, pass resolutions, put pressure on folks to say that this is something we want. So, if that is something you're hoping to do, definitely reach out to us. I know that
Okay.
Brandon was interested in the interested in the violence interruption programs and potentially our committee passing some resolutions on that, weighing in on the bill that the city council is considering, and maybe we could weigh in on something like that as well. So definitely let us know.
Okay.
Sorry, Karen, I know you had your hand up.
I certainly do, and I do know we're pressed for time, but Reverend Judy is a treat to have in the room, so I do not want to miss out on
Thank
this
you.
joyful moment because I know having her at the table is we this is a respectful thing that I really gotta admire. Okay, so Reverend Judy, I always believe in going to the core reasons why we're dealing with the problems that we're having, and you're tackling it through the trauma door. And the
Mhm.
Pathways program is something that we want to make sure that the funding, as Brandon mentioned, is sustainable. You want to
Yeah.
make sure that there is a reason why people participate in these programs, whether they're warm body programs for 6 months, but we want to know that the family needs to have a structured income, the family needs to have a structured way to feed their children, and so that they won't see that the devices on the street is something that is interesting,
Yeah.
that they should be interested in. The video games, as you know, it does help to desensitize them against the violence, and the drill music being programmed in their head. You can reprogram them through conscious interaction and conscious rap. I mean, it was done before, it can be done
Mhm.
again. So, but what I'm interested in knowing is when you're doing the programming for these pathways programs and any other programs that they have to sit in the class to get merits and funding to be a participant, are you thinking about the future of how they can actually earn some sustainable income? If
Yeah.
not only because some of them are breadwinners for their family when they participate for those 6 months in a program. What are you all doing to tackle that as part of the problem that systemically keeps them in those chains of violence? That's my last question. Thank you, Francois. And I'm looking forward to you all being in a 3D CAC meeting this month too, Reverend Judy.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the invitation. Yes, I do know that one of the dimensions that they've just added is they're looking for, because it gives them that jump start with the 6 months of subsidized employment. It also, they're doing internships, and they're also looking for apprenticeships where they can actually continue whatever profession or trade they wanted to be involved in. So they're actively recruiting for those. They're looking in and non-traditional things, because at one point it was CDL law. Everybody wanted to get their CDL license. Well, now it's welders and steam fitters, and it's HVAC. It's now back to the nursing, and the healthcare industries, the allied sciences. So they're actually looking at these departments. Howard University, the former medical director, he's actually helped us and helping those of us that are working in this violence intervention and prevention space create, programs that are engineered toward ensuring that there are other avenues that, like you said, sustain these families past the subsidy of the pathways model, which is great. It's a great entree. It gets them into it, but with the whole cyberspace and IT, there's a lot of training and apprenticeships in those programs that they're working with now. We have a lot of young people, they come almost born knowing how to do coding and the stuff with the telephone. I mean, I can do things with my phone, but very basic. But my 7-year-old granddaughter, I'm like, I can't believe this. She was like, "Oh, grandma, give me the phone." And so just being able, technology has opened a whole nother avenue of opportunity for them. So we are pursuing those non-traditional kinds of trade lines in addition to making sure that we have vocational paths in the construction industry as well. That's another avenue that they're pursuing, more so than they were before, the building trades, but more engineering, which requires a little bit more education and skill set. But they are actually developing those models right now. So hopefully they'll start to see the fruit of that. I know the deputy director of the ones is actively pursuing these types of career paths, so that they do have program beyond that 6 month subsidy, and working with corporations. I know there's some foundation money that they're going after to try to help, kind of jumpstart some of that activity and investment.
That's exactly why I mentioned that question, because you have to invest in a community to cure the problem. And
Yeah.
if we're not working to cure that real core problem, then we're going to see it fester over and over again. And thank you, Francois, because that's what you write into the resolution, to look towards the investment of the programs that allows them to see the sustainable future for the participants of these programs. So thank you so much, Reverend Judy. I appreciate you, and have a beautiful day. Thank
All
you.
right, you too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate all your time and answering all our questions, even past 8 o'clock.
Okay. You're
So
welcome.
nice of
Thank
you.
you all. I look forward to working with you all. And I'm a resource. Just, a phone call away, Francois. Everybody knows how to get in touch with me.
Mhm.
If you don't, I can put my number in the chat.
That'd be great. And I
Okay, let
definitely
me
do
do
think
that.
we should collaborate, because I do think there are ways that we can help advocate for things for for your programs, as well as, you know, like Karen was saying, making sustainable investments in the community. I really do want to try to move some of our ANC money into giving kids scholarships, or somehow just directly, sponsoring young people in the area.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to go, Francois. I think I brought the scholarship up last year, your last term.
Mhm.
I think it's really important in order to be impactful as an ANC, and especially with the coffers that we have. We need to make sure that we're using the resources wisely, and
Mhm.
programs like Reverend Judy's program and other programs that truly are impactful for the neighborhood could be helpful. I think that it would definitely, if they know the areas that we're having the problems in, like she mentioned, is they have 10 point places throughout the city. I mean, Ward 1, but I think that it's the
Mhm.
hours of operation that's also important, especially
Yes,
when we
yeah.
have people traversing around the area in the evening time, when we have the young people leaving the metros. I had told council member Nadeau that I think that we need to have someone set up near the metro stations to capture them before when they come out, and they have
Mhm.
something that's some programming there, but you want it to be interesting enough for them to want to stay there, as opposed to traveling all over the place. They'll have places that they can stay at the metro stops. And I was working with WMATA, and I'm like, let us know when it comes so that we can have somebody there. But this is one of the things that I was telling the council member that we need to do. And I think she relayed that information to Terrence. Estelle should have done that. But just in case they didn't, I'm going to reiterate it again. I think
Okay.
part of your programming should be to try to capture them before they come out, spill out in the street on the weekends when everybody else is having fun. This is the fun area. Create some kind of fun for them, so that their age level fun, or to make them feel like they're being grown, but still enough to make it interesting. That's why I think a youth advisory council is important, so that you don't have to think like your granddaughter, but your granddaughter can help you come up with ideas, and be, at their age level. So thank you,
Absolutely.
Francois. You knew I was going to add some more stuff. I apologize. I don't want to take away from the meeting, but you know how we have to get these creative minds working towards these problems that everybody is impacted by. And Reverend Judy, you are beautiful for doing everything that you're doing. Thank you so much
You're
again.
welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I believe it's a calling. So this is my assignment. This is my God-given assignment. So I don't look at it as a job or anything like that. It's something that I'm called to do, and I have a passion for God's people. So I'm here to serve.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. So I guess that concludes my participation in the meeting. Francois, thank you for having me. Thank you all. Thank you, Commander Wheeler. Good to see you again. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Claire. I didn't
Thank you.
see Mr. McCauley from MPD, Mr. Murphy, but thank you and good night to everybody.
And everybody else,
All
stay
right,
on
thank you.
for some more minutes.
Okay, bye-bye.
MPD, you're good to drop if you guys. I'm sure you guys got lots to do. So unless there's anything else
All
that
right,
we wanted
thank you.
to talk about.
After Judge Judy gave her uplifting speech and information she's given, I'll hold off on our enforcement initiatives. We have a lot over the past month, and our upcoming initiative that's effective starting tomorrow. I can hold off on that until next meeting.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm sure we'll have higher attendance then too, hopefully. So great. Well, thank you both for joining. Really appreciate it and sharing out and engaging with everybody. Definitely, let's fingers crossed there will be less major crimes this month.
Yes.
Upcoming month. So the weather's getting warmer.
Thank
so.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, Brandon, Claire, and Karen. Very quickly, I've been able to meet with Brandon directly. Claire, I know we're still trying to schedule a one-on-one, so let's try to do that at some point. I know we've both been super busy, but definitely try to find a time. And then, Karen, I know we've talked outside of this, but I would love to chat with you as well, just one-on-one. So hopefully we can schedule those soon.
Am I
The other,
missing something?
you're
You
good.
need to
I've
talk to
just been scheduling one-on-one calls with all the committee members, so would love to chat with you more at some point whenever you're free.
Look, anytime you need to chat with me, give me a ring. You know what my schedule looks like, but always call me anytime. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
I might take you up on that. And quickly, Karen, I was wondering if you know when is the next nightlife task force walk? I know they do the walk starting at the 3rd District Police Station.
Okay, on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Well, because we at 9 o'clock we try to have everyone meet up there whenever, but the walks are always like sort of impromptu sometimes because of the scheduling emergencies happen. I and events, emergencies, and everything happen. I just today I was talking to the commander about the walks because we've been trying to get something scheduled where we have our interagency walks. So I can't narrow it down just yet because I follow whatever. If the commander says that they're doing it and then next thing you know we plan it and something happens, I don't want to have everyone working on MPD time. So so if it's possible for you guys to wait until I can get something from the commander, I'd appreciate that. Is that okay with you?
Sorry, my call dropped for a minute there, but I think if I understand correctly, you're saying you can get back to us with some specific times that we could join?
Well, I would like to. I have to use the commander's lead in on it, and because if I schedule an interagency walk, right, and
Yeah.
then something transpires where everyone has decided that okay, this is an emergency,
Yeah.
especially but I don't want you all to be out on the street and something crazy happens. And then so I really want to do it where it's a little bit more structured. We have the walk scheduled It'll probably not be at 9 o'clock at night. It'll, when it's extremely busy, it'll probably be something starting at 7 p.m. where we can get everyone to come together probably for 20 or 30 minutes. If you let me know where starting point you want to start from, if you want it in, in your SMD, do you want it in a particular SMD, then I can get it scheduled for that time period.
Okay, I mean that sounds good. I just wasn't sure because I know I talked with the commander and he mentioned that they do walks
Yeah, we do it, but
sort of
it's not.
regularly. Mhm,
Well, they're regular walks. Okay,
mhm,
we have to do them every week.
mhm.
So they're weekly walks.
Yeah,
However, they're not always community-based walks. So
yeah,
that's
okay.
that's the only challenge. And that's why I was saying if it's something where if we normally when we do like a community-based walk, we want to have other agency officials in place and just in case the community members want to, my motto is to ensure that everyone can get in touch with the direct community agencies that they need to touch base with to showcase the problem. Because if we're walking with our deputy
Mhm.
mayor, I want you all to be able to have the access to people to address them at that particular
Yeah,
time, not just MPD. You,
okay.
you
Yeah, I mean I think
understand?
that makes sense. Let's definitely try to schedule. I know there was a walk. I couldn't make it last time that happened a few weeks ago, but let's definitely try to
Yes.
schedule another walk. And I definitely want to get everyone on this committee involved so that hopefully they can join as well. Because I think
Do you
it'd
have
be great to do something in person, get us all out there.
do you have a
Yeah,
particular area that you would like to start at so we can concentrate and we can start at that location,
yeah,
and then it makes it a central place where everyone's comfortable meeting.
yeah. I mean, I think I definitely think U Street, maybe Ninth and U. I mean, that is my SMD, so obviously it's what I'm thinking about the most. But I do think that obviously we've had a lot of crime
Well,
issues there, unfortunately. So
Brandon and Claire, do you all have any weigh-ins on it as well, where you all would like to see a safety walk? Because we can start at Ninth and U and we can go
mhm.
somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. I don't. We
Miss
wouldn't.
Karen, I live at 7th and T. You're going to end up here anyway.
So what about you, Mr. Brandon?
I live on 14th and W, so I mean I'm probably the furthest, so it doesn't really matter. I'm
You're not
open.
the furthest, you're closer to me.
Oh, am I? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're closer to me. So we know where the starting point is. It'll be a nice little march. We'll be headed all the way over to you guys. So the Reeve Center is generally where we start most of our walk set.
Mhm,
Okay, but
mhm,
we know the hot zones because it used to be extremely busy right here, but now it's not as busy. So but what we can do, and as Claire mentioned, we always start our walks over where Claire is, but and Brandon, it
mhm.
depends on how you feel. I mean, we want the whole committee to weigh in, right? Right, Francois? Do you
Yeah, I
want them to
mean,
weigh in where they want to stop and start?
I do. So we can like decide at the next meeting. But yeah, I definitely want us to try to get something on the books as soon as possible. And I mean, obviously the summer is when more people are out, so there's more nightlife and more things to enjoy and to worry about. So,
Would you like
What
it
time
on a
do these?
Friday or Saturday or Sunday?
Okay.
What day?
I think a Friday makes the most sense.
I'm
Now,
close to that.
the resources for the walk. You got to take
Hmm.
in consideration two things.
Hmm.
That's when the critical resources are on the street at that time. You understand?
Hmm.
So just giving you a heads up on that. So whatever
Yeah.
day you plan it, just let me know what day is ideal. Um, I hear that you're saying Friday, but take
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
consideration we may not get the everybody for MPD and they may get a immediate call.
We could do a Thursday potentially too, but I do think there's something helpful about, being out
Friday.
there when it's the big going out night. But
Oh,
I hear you. But let's
okay,
touch
so
base.
we may not be able to have, well, let's just
Mhm,
work at it. Okay, I'll just ask,
mhm.
let's plan a Friday.
Okay.
Let's find out the availability for everyone on their calendar. And a
Mhm.
Friday, generally at 7 p.m., would probably be ideal.
Mhm.
That'll be a little bit before our traditional meeting at 9 p.m. at the third district. So that should
Mhm.
give some advance time, if that's okay with everyone else. You can get the consensus from the group, and then
Yeah.
and then we can plan from there. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much for helping with organizing it, and I'm definitely happy to help reach out to folks. So yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Look, I thank you all because I tell you, it's always wonderful to have people who are interested in public safety. And
Mm.
I've been interested in public safety, studied it and worked it and do everything. So anytime you all are on board, I'm always happy to see wonderful faces. And now that I know Brandon is around my area, I'm going to bug you a little bit more, Brandon. But
I
thank
got
you.
time. Mm.
There you go.
So do I. I got Cory Booker time myself. So, anyways, so, so you all, I pray you all have a beautiful and blessed evening. Was there anything else, Francois?
Very last thing, very quickly. I've been trying to connect Leah Tribet, one of our other committee members, with Jasmine Benab about safe passage, because I'm hoping, because I think Ms. Benab was in charge. She's one of the deputy mayor.
She says
She's
she's her
she works for
assistant.
deputy mayor. Yeah, she's her
Yeah, she
assistant. And
works for her assistant. I mean, what
okay, she did a
she's a
presentation on
the
safe passage, though. I remember.
uh-huh.
And so I
Well,
was just hoping to connect Leah with her to talk more about safe passage, and because I think we're hoping to draft a resolution about it. So I just thought it would be good to have them meet and give her the chance to ask some questions.
I mean, did she have Jasmine's email? Because
I
I
reached
can give
out and
that to her.
we did email, so I was just wondering if
I
you
have her.
potentially had
Want me
any.
to give you her telephone number too?
Sure, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay, I'll make sure I'll send all that through to you. I
Okay,
like to
great.
connect everybody.
I know, and that's why I figured it'd be a good question, because you're the connector.
Oh, I have no problems. I will give if I look. I'll tell you their whereabouts if you ask me.
There you go. Someone's got to keep. All right, great. Well, thank you guys for staying over. Really appreciate it. And yeah, sorry for it was a weird meeting tonight, but I think it was really, really interesting to hear from Reverend Judy about the Violence Interrupter program. And see you all again next month. Brandon, I know you had a draft resolution, but I think we should just go over that at the next meeting.
Well, what was
Yeah,
it
that's fine.
about? Just in case I mean, are you running or are you rushing, or because I have a couple of more minutes. That's why I'm asking. Unless Claire is rushing, or unless you're rushing,
The
Francois.
dog will walk herself.
My only constraint is I haven't eaten dinner, but Brandon,
Oh,
if you
sorry,
wanted to
sweetheart.
talk real quick about it,
Yeah,
you're
I'm
welcome to.
munching, like as you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want him to miss out on this opportunity because I don't know what'll happen for me for the next meeting. That's all.
That's fair.
Yeah, I can send the resolution, but it was based on the link that Francois sent. It was discussing the merging of Onesie and Cure the Streets. So
Yeah.
I drafted a resolution that basically kind of discussed what we talked about. Basically, one of the first whereas clause talks about the overlapping of the two programs with duplicate scopes. The second whereas clause talks about absent and consistent oversight. The third one talks about misconduct, and the resolve clause is basically to merge the two programs into one unified violence intervention program that is housed within the executive branch contingent upon the following. And the benchmarks were implementation of a thoroughly researched and agreed upon evidence-based intervention model, the creation of an independent oversight and advisory body composed of public safety researchers, community representatives, private citizens, and violence prevention experts, ensure funding and training and collaboration, prioritize those who currently do the work, wraparound services to ensure money just isn't being thrown at the problem, develop clear and obtainable measurable performance benchmarks, and biannual reporting of program effectiveness and agency expenditures. Um, So I didn't know if I was way off with that, but I read the article, I read the email that Francois sent, and that's kind of what I drafted as far as merging the two programs.
Yeah, I read the article, but listening to Reverend Judy, this is my way in. I think that
Mhm.
I think some of those components that you mentioned are excellent. And I listened to Reverend Judy. I think that we could probably wordsmith some additional language into it.
Mm-hmm.
For this meeting, from this meeting, personally, I think the different things, the different components of her program, I think supportive measures that we can take in the resolution to support programs not just as hers, but similar to hers, and also do a research based on the programs that may be also similar so that we have more than one offering in our community,
Mm-hmm.
and also showing how we are supportive of those other programs. That's my way in, because I think that the direction that you're going in, Brandon, is definitely ideal. I really believe that ANC should, because we are the boots on the ground in this. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we should be able to make sure that we're far more proactive in working towards like the safe passage program,
Mhm.
and then also getting the parent, like they have PTAs or parent involved programs inside the schools, getting them involved. But then also we need to have some social services um
Mm-hmm.
aspects of it, where
Yeah.
there's not we were talking about not just addressing the kids who are in social, I mean, justice impacted, but the ones who aren't, who are looking up to the ones who are just as impacted. That the
Mm-hmm.
family structure needs to be addressed. I think if we're meeting them where they are before they become a problem, if we're addressing it from the core, the core problems, you may not be able to tackle poverty, but you know that you have, and MPD consistently says there's 500 families in DC that are the problem families. I mean, not to say
Mm-hmm.
problem families, but you always see those same people just as involved with a lot of the issues that we have going on in the community. But and I didn't bring this up with Reverend Judy, but I don't know if you know this, Francois, but I have a big
Mhm.
issue about human trafficking and how it's tied into the drug trade.
Mhm.
I really think that we need to look at who's benefiting from this environment. You understand? If
Mhm.
you're having the drug environments that we have going on, there is someone who is getting a benefit. The supply and demand structure that all of this is built around, which is namely drugs, right? We have to make sure that the enforcement levels, the money investment in regards to the enforcement of what is actually happening, and people killing people, the gun violence, who is benefiting from the children being out on the streets, going through these particular problems. It's too predatory that I
Mhm.
think that our children are just left out to be subject matter to those persons who are bringing the guns into DC, where we don't manufacture guns, bringing the manufactured drugs into the city. So if we're not doing anything to actually tackle the people who are benefiting from this entire problem, which I don't think that they're doing it. There's no real addressing of that issue. Do you guys understand? Get where I'm going from that point of
Mm-hmm.
view?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody out of you hear people talking about the children, but you don't hear them talking about the persons who's bringing the guns in on the street. $2,500 guns. These children can't afford that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they
Yeah.
can't afford
Yeah.
it. You
I
you
mean,
know.
yeah, I am interested to learn more about how are, people getting guns in the district, and what's behind that. How can we tackle that? I do think, there's the sort of, using kids to commit crimes, which seems more organized. And then there's the people getting into fights, while they're standing in line, and then things go wrong, and someone pulls out a gun or a knife or something. So it seems like there's there's the more organized crime, and then there's the just sort of random acts of violence.
I, I have one more question.
The triggers is what you're talking about,
Mhm.
Francois. What's what's triggering these kids to do what they're doing, and how are we addressing their mental state? The mental health
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
like
yeah,
Brandon had mentioned that earlier. I mean, every child is not going to be medicated, and a lot of people are not going to always notice immediately a culture of being being nasty and disrespectful to each other. No one's going to turn that down because that seems to be the culture of the day. So, what I want to know is,
Mhm.
um, it starts in the school. If the kids are being in school, some of these kids aren't. The truancy rate shows that they're not going to school, right? So,
Yeah,
I mean, these
yeah.
are the things, and when they're not in school, they're being preyed upon. If you came to the
Mhm.
last CAC meeting when we had the youth tech, the mayor, I mean the MPD's youth division talking to youth branch, excuse me, talking about this. They're not in school, so even though Reverend Judy's program is trying to address them while they're in school, who's going to address this? Is why I say we really need to
Mhm.
address it, the truancy issues. If they're out on the street, nobody is
Yeah,
monitoring that. Nobody's
yeah, yeah,
investing
yeah,
in that monitoring process.
yeah,
Nobody's
yeah,
investing in who's preying upon the children. So, I mean, still, it's going to keep going about. It's going to be a rotating issue. So, the only way that
yeah.
you can address it is by investing in it. That's
I,
money.
I
Yes,
got one.
Brandon.
Yeah, I got
Yes,
one
sir.
question. And regarding I was reading over the resolution. So by merging the two programs and it going under the executive, does that mean it's going to get mandatory spending? If it's an actual priority for the mayor, or is it still going to be discretionary that can be changed year to year?
Well, there's a lot of, they have a lot of different well, one, by us not having out, we're losing the money from that $1 billion being held hostage. The funding, trying to tackle funding is going to be a huge issue, and they're putting all their lawyers on anything. Whenever you say funds and you bring it in before the city council, they're going to be like, oh, well, we don't have funds. They're already going to tell you that. I'm
Mm,
just letting you guys know that off the achy. Funds is anything that requests funds does not already under the 2024 budget, you
mm,
know, um,
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
can't think 2025 right now. So where are they using the funds wisely is what I would look at, Brandon. Do they have money in places that was initially discretionary,
mm,
um, for some type of program that was one of their little programs that really is not helpful to the city. Like,
mm,
I'm not saying this about the zoo, like Save the Pandas or something like that. I mean, when we have a crime problem, you got to
yeah.
look how they can bring money towards these actual things that are life-saving issues, or I mean anything that affects the quality of life. If they can move monies around. Phil
Mhm.
Mendelssohn, Anita Bonds are the people that you guys want to target your because she's over the executive. Anita Bonds is over the executive. Phil Mendelssohn is where you want to look at what he has under his committee structure whenever you're talking about those, how to move funds around. Um but when we're talking about mental health, you want to get Christina Henderson because she's in charge. She's the chair of the health committee, to see what can we do in regards to investments towards mental health, in regards to the triggers that Francois is talking about. That's how
Mm,
you can get funds towards mental health, taking care of the mental health issues. But even though you say addressing it in schools, if the kids aren't going to school, if they're not leaving their home, you got to work from there. Francois, I'm just telling
Yeah,
you the
yeah, yeah.
realities.
No, I mean, I think this is a larger problem with any policy intended to reach out to the people who are the most vulnerable, is that how do you know that those are the people that you're reaching? Those people, are those people going to access that program? It's great to hear that, Reverend Judy is running these programs and helping individuals, in places like LaDroit Park. But, if there are people that are just very hard to reach or that don't want to participate in those programs, it seems like those people are also the people that might be turning towards violence. So it's like, how do we really make sure that the funds and the resources are getting to the people most in need? That's just something that I think about a
That's
lot.
why I said meet them where they are. So before, when, like, if they're coming out of the train stations, if you don't have some
Yeah.
type of programming to sort of to distract them, you have to find ways to keep them busy. Because I mean, I'm a daughter of Washington,
I
D.C.
worry that once they come out of the train station, it could be too late. But I hear you. I mean, I think it's important. I mean, people, kids are like to gather around the U
Right, they
Street
love it. They
metro.
love it. They love adventure, and they really
Mhm.
want to be around grown people because they think they're growing up, and they think that they
Mhm.
want to be
Yeah.
grown. And so you have to think
No, I hear
like
you.
they're a teenager. You have to
Mhm.
say, okay, what's exciting? I can guarantee you that a 70-year-old grandmother is not going to tell you something that's exciting for someone who's 12 and 14 years old. There's no way possible. And so
Yeah.
what you need, that's why I said you need to have youth advisory. Um, you need to have someone who truly knows what youth are thinking about, but you also need to quickly and immediately be able to have the programming for it. And you all know that the way that programming and monies work in DC government, it takes forever to get to the points that it needs to get to. And some of these nonprofit organizations are not always going to be the instruments. The government, the city government has to use their funds, so it has to come through. They always pass the buck to nonprofits. So
I mean, yeah,
I'm
I want the city to do more, especially with drugs and mental health. So I hear you on that. Oh, I think we lost. I think we lost her. Well, I think it's.
I'm still here. I'm
Oh,
still here.
oh, you're here.
I
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
still
yeah,
here. Yeah,
Yeah,
you said you want the city to do more, and Francois, I do as well. I just think
yeah.
that our problem is that the city will not do anything if you don't keep beating that same drum and saying, hey,
Mhm.
do this. And if they know that ANC 1B, who is highly impacted by this, and Ward 1 is highly impacted by this, you have to not just say the
Mhm.
1B drum, you have to hit the Ward 1 drum
Yeah, yeah.
consistently. And then also, not only that, but you have all these at-large council members. You stop having
Mhm.
just one council member come to this meeting. We have the
Mhm.
at-large council members. They're supposed to serve us too. So
Yeah.
invite them to the table, Brandon. And whenever you're writing some resolutions, make sure that not only do you hit the at-large, but you also hit the chair.
Mhm.
Look, I'm trying to tell you how to work this.
Yeah,
This
no, I
is a
mean it's helpful.
process, huh?
Yeah, it totally is. There's a lot to learn. So,
It's a
um,
process. I'm a daughter of
yeah.
Washington D.C. Okay, daughter of Washington D.C. and servant
Mhm.
of the people for ages. I never tell you on my age because I say lifelong. I've been around for a minute. Okay, but I just really want you all to know that it's critical with all the fund, like the ANC has funding, but the ANC also has weight that they really need to take advantage of. And I
Yeah.
I applaud you, Francois, because you're doing a very effective job, and I really appreciate you. And you're bringing great minds together. Look at Brandon sitting up there already ready to do this resolution. I'm really really proud of you all. I do want to tell you that. And anytime you're doing something, I'm gonna support you with the 3DCAC. I've been telling you that from day one, right?
Yep.
Anytime.
Yep.
So,
No,
I'm gonna make sure that we're supportive. But what I'm asking is that when you're
Mhm.
making these calls to get resolutions in, don't be
Mhm.
narrow with the resolution. Okay, please
Mhm.
don't be narrow with it, that you
Okay.
forget about the root cause. You have to look at the reason why we keep having the same problem over and over and over again is because no one wants to say they don't want to say the bad stuff out loud. They want to dance around it. We dance around the stuff that is going to keep coming back. Okay.
Mhm.
uh,
And and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Brandon
I
Brandon,
hear
you
you.
touched on a lot of good points. I just want you to and the article really did touch on some points, great points, but I really want you to look at what constantly comes back up as a problem. Even if you're trying to address it from a high level, but still, what is
Mhm.
the constant issue? Just because people don't want to talk about it, it doesn't mean that it went away. Okay?
Right.
And
Well,
and
can you
and
give us
if
some
you
examples of what you're thinking of?
Well, okay, no, here you are. You're new to this. I want you to tell me, Francois, the answer to that.
Mhm.
You're new to the neighborhood, okay? And you have been dealing with this neighborhood and seeing what's going on, and you said that you
Mhm.
want to make a change. What is the thing that screams out? And I'm not saying Ninth Street, so please don't say Ninth Street, sweetheart. But what is the thing that screams out to you as your biggest problem? I mean, you know what
Mhm.
good looks like. You know what a normal situation looks like. Okay. What
Mhm.
screams out to you?
I mean, from the conversations that we've been having and what I've been seeing, it seems like, a lot of young people just don't have safe homes. And this is causing a lot of problems downstream from that for them and for the community.
Okay. So what I see is they don't have, it's not safe homes. They don't have safe places to go to where they feel welcomed. They
Hmm.
the recreation centers have been closed off to them. They can't go there all the time. When I was growing up in DC, we used to be able to go to the recreation centers without any problems. The
Really?
anytime we wanted, anytime. And you didn't have to register for this and do all this. And you can go to any recreation centers from all across they need to have complete access to all these recreation centers that DC actually has. They have too many restrictions when it comes to
Hmm.
them having safe places. They have nowhere to go, nowhere.
Yeah,
Yet,
yeah,
every
yeah,
time you turn around, everybody says, not in my backyard, not in my backyard, not here, not there.
yeah.
But then they don't have any place where they can go. And
I
everywhere
mean,
that
yeah,
it's always gated away from them.
yeah.
And so now you're seeing a rebellious
Hmm.
culture that, you
Hmm.
know what, if you say I can't go, I'm going to go anyway. And if you don't want me around, I'm going to do whatever. And so this mindset has it's like it's not going to change if you don't create welcoming spaces. We have a huge that whole sandlot. These
Hmm.
kids need an activity. They claim that it's supposed to be to bring programming to the city. Do you know what it'll be like if they turned that sandlot indoor to like an indoor skating rink for kids to be
Hmm.
able to be in, a place for the children? I said this. I said we have places
Hmm.
indoor skating. You have places where the kids used to have places to hang out.
Yeah,
They have
yeah, yeah,
nowhere to hang out. When I
yeah.
was growing up, we had up near they turned Hook Hall into a place where children don't can't go, but they want adults to go. But they always can have a bar. It's always a bar, no matter what. Nothing is
Yeah,
family. Nothing is open
yeah.
for these young kids. And so,
I
guess
hear
what
you.
they're
I
gonna
hear you.
do? Now they
Yeah.
can't be on the street. Every time you turn around, there's a restriction here, restriction there, restriction there. And so, where are they welcomed? So,
Hmm.
if you don't want
Yeah.
to see kids in a place, then create a place for them. And if
No, I
there's
think
no
that's.
places
I think that's.
created for them, then of course you're going to have the problem you have. So did
Yeah. I
that
mean,
answer your question?
no. I mean, I think it does, and I think it's important to just say it out loud, and to say, to talk about the fact that people don't want those spaces in their backyard, but we need them, and to talk about the fact that the recreation centers, aren't like that the city should be pouring resources into those to keep them open, to give kids really high quality places to spend time, and I think that what was I going to say? I think that it's very true that our society as a whole has just become much less supportive for kids and for families. There are just less spaces,
Mhm.
like you said. People are generally less tolerant of kids, I would say, and of kids in public spaces.
Oh yeah.
And that we do have lower birth rates now, so we do have less kids, and we also have parents who I think, while well intentioned, there is a problem with kids just not having enough social connection. They don't have as much freedom to roam around in a healthy way, I would argue, hanging out with other kids during the day.
And where are they going to
going to the
go
park.
if they want to act healthy? If you want to go to a healthy place to have a healthy conversation, you guys have. I mean, it's like everything has been closed off to them. So now they become couch potatoes. They sit on the couch. They play videos.
Mhm.
Then they get beat up for playing video games. And so why don't you create a recreation center where they can play their video games, hang out with their friends, go places? I mean, you got to create the environment. Say that you want them. Say you want them somewhere in order for them to be there, and then invest in them. So when Brandon is talking about investment, invest in the children's places, invest in places where they want to be. I know what they love to do, but as soon as they love to do it, guess what? All of a sudden is restriction, 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 restriction.
Can you give some examples of the restrictions? Are you thinking about libraries, recreation centers, parks? What do you?
Okay,
all of it.
Okay, if you're 12 years old, what would you be interested in, Francois?
Well, what would 12-year-old me be interested in, or kids these days?
Even 12-year-old you.
I mean, I think hanging out with other
You want to
kids.
be hanging around other kids where you can be
Yeah.
able to see girls or boys or whatever, and you want to hang out. You want to feel like you are you. It should be structured, but you don't want to feel overly policed, overly
Yeah.
parented. But
Yeah.
you want to be able to have fun. So if you have fun zones that's intentional for kids, trust me, they will go. It's just that they need to feel wanted in these spaces. They need to be able to have those structured spaces where it's convenient for them to walk to, convenient for them to get off the subway and go to. You got the Sandlot straight across the street from the metro. Why isn't that a space? You got all these places that's right near metros where the kids are gonna go, but yet it's like so restrictive. Oh, we don't want to hear them running down the street. They can't even walk down the street and say anything. Oh, they talk too loud. Or they do this. I mean, these children don't. Can they grow up? Can they grow up? And then you say, okay, well, we don't want the ATVs in the street. I said, okay, well, why don't you create a park where they can drive their BMX bikes? They do get sponsorships in other cities, drive their ATVs in a place in one location. That way they're not on the street. I mean, it's like find
I
a
think the
place.
skate park was a good example of that, where there's a skate
I
park.
said that, but see, my thing is, you have to create it so it's fun. So if they know that they have that huge area, like you said, right over there near Shaw's Skate Park, that whole big lot. You can turn that into something fun for them, and look, and have food trucks around, have everything around, just for them to hang out and say, okay, at 11 p.m. it's over. That way, one, it's time to go. And after 11, they know that they got curfews. If you start creating structure for them and places for them to go, that one, they know they're not going to get killed when they go. And they know that in the process, you make those things more attractive than hanging on the corner with some fool who's telling them that it's okay for them to do this and do that, the predators. And then also those predatory people who are preying on these kids to sell drugs, buy drugs, whatever, or drink, whatever. You guys, that needs to be addressed too. But we can do more than one thing at the time. We can talk and chew gum at the same time. So I think that it's possible to do more than one activity, but to invest in the children. If you're not, if you don't think if you don't think that you're being loved on, then of course you're going to do the stuff and to be loved on by some fool. If a fool want to love you, then you're going to take the fool's love. And it's unfortunate, like she said, soft-brained kids will do soft-brained things. And so if you're not investing in the children, that's what's happening. So Brandon, what would you do at 12 years old just for fun?
I like to watch movies. When I was growing up, we had clubs, not club. Well, they were like clubs, but they didn't sell alcohol, but they were just for teenagers. We did have after school stuff to do, sports activities. There's nothing there. You're right. There is nothing now.
See, look at that.
I agree with all that.
And see, and this, and my thing is, you can have, like you say, you can have a movie, you have a movie theater inside it, you have a bowling rink inside of it, have a skating rink inside of it, you have
Yeah.
music. They love doing. You got to be intentional when it comes to children. Everybody is only intentional about selling alcohol. That's the only intentional thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like for real. I
Mhm.
mean, but yet, and then you get mad about kids who all of a sudden become addicted to alcohol and want to be drinking out of their trunks, and so they want to have fun because they think the only way to have fun, because they're being taught by watching the adults, the only way to have fun is by drinking alcohol. And then everybody is wondering, okay, well, U Street is the new Bourbon Street, and every only way you can have fun is by drinking and selling
Yeah.
alcohol. And why are kids attracted to it? They're attracted to it because they're taught by the adults that this is what's fun. And so if you don't create these fun zones for the kids, then guess what? You're going to have a problem. So I've said my piece. So
Yep.
I hope I was able to relay to you an exact solution as opposed to complaining, because I'm not complaining. I gave you a solution. So how do
Mhm.
you invest in it? Write it up, Brandon, because you are a wordsmith, and I'm expecting you to have that done.
I could do
Well, I
that.
think that's a good place to start end to end.
Yeah.
I have to go. I got to eat something. But
All
I
right.
was just going to say, I think like you said, Karen, like our job as like the ANC is to beat the drum and to get others to beat the drum. So I
Hello.
do think it's good to choose a few things, not too many, 1, 2, maybe, where
Start
that's like,
somewhere.
that's our thing that we beat the drum on,
Well,
Mhm.
wherever you do, just start something and stop sitting on it. That's all I got to say about that. Okay,
hmm
start
hmm
somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. I hear
I
you.
think you're moving in the right direction. One, you're already moving in the right direction by opening your ears. We're gonna have to teach you how to multitask and eat during the meetings, because that's what I have to do all the time.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay,
All
have a
right. Well,
beautiful
thank
night,
you guys.
gentlemen.
Have a good
All
Have a
night.
right. You
beautiful night.
too.
It was a pleasure meeting you,
All right.
Brandon.
Nice to meet you as well.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing you
All
guys
right.
at the
All right.
CAC
Bye,
meeting. Bye
Francois.
bye. Good
Talk to
All
you
right.
guys
night.
later.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.